I cleaned their homes for 40 years. Then one letter changed everything. Hello, Margaret Collins. I am 74 years old. One rainy morning, I was quietly mopping the marble floor of a mansion when I heard someone laugh. She's been cleaning houses for 40 years. And she still can't afford to retire. They didn't know. I heard every word. My name is Margaret Collins. I'm 74 years old for 4 decades. I cleaned other people's homes. I watched children grow up. I polished silver that wasn't mine. I folded clothes I could never afford. I smiled, even when my back screamed in pain, because every dollar I earned went to someone else. My husband died young, leaving me alone to raise our only son. I worked 7 days a week, birthdays, Christmas, even while sick. I missed school plays, family dinners, and almost every holiday. Not because I wanted to, because survival doesn't wait. Then one ordinary afternoon, a white envelope arrived in my mailbox. One single letter that would change my life forever. The painful truth. I stared at the envelope for several minutes, afraid to open it. My hands were shaking. The return address simply read, Harrison and Blake Attorneys. I whispered to myself, what could a law firm possibly want with an old cleaning lady? Slowly, I opened it. Inside was a short letter. Mrs. Margaret Collins, please visit our office this Friday regarding the estate of Mr. William Harrison. Your presence is extremely important. I frowned. William Harrison? The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't remember why. Friday arrived. After finishing my morning cleaning job, I took 2 buses across town. I was embarrassed. My shoes were worn out. My cleaning uniform smelled of bleach. Everyone inside the law office wore expensive suits. I almost turned around. Until the receptionist smiled. Mrs. Collins? We've been expecting you. She led me into a large conference room. The lawyer stood up immediately. Mrs. Collins, thank you for coming. He placed an old photograph on the table. The moment I saw it, my heart stopped. It was Mr. Harrison, the elderly gentleman whose house I had cleaned every Wednesday for nearly 25 years. He had no children, no wife, no close family. He always greeted me with tea and asked about my son. 6 months ago, he quietly passed away. I attended his funeral. There were only 7 people there. The lawyer spoke softly. Mrs. Collins, before Mr. Harrison died, he left you a personal letter. He handed me another envelope, my eyes filled with tears. His handwriting was unmistakable. I carefully unfolded the letter. My dear Margaret, for 25 years, you never treated me like a customer. You treated me like family. When everyone else forgot my birthday, you baked me a cake. When I was sick, you stayed after work without asking for extra pay. When I lost my wife, you sat beside me and simply listened. You thought you were only cleaning my house, but in truth, you cleaned away my loneliness. By now, I could barely see the words through my tears. The lawyer waited quietly. Then he said something that left me completely speechless. Mrs. Collins, that letter is only the beginning. There is something else. Mr. Harrison wanted you to know. And in that moment, my entire life was about to change forever. The secret he left behind, I couldn't stop crying. Mr. Harrison's letter rested in my trembling hands. For 25 years, I believed I was simply cleaning his home. I never imagined he had been quietly watching my life too. The lawyer opened a thick file. Mrs. Collins, before Mr. Harrison passed away, he made one final decision. He wanted to thank the only person who never treated him like he was alone. I looked at him in confusion. Thank me? I was only his housekeeper. The lawyer smiled gently. No, you were his family. He slowly pushed another document across the table. It was Mr. Harrison's final will. My heart began racing. The lawyer continued, Mr. Harrison has left his mansion, his investment portfolio, and a portion of his personal savings to you. I stared at him, certain I had misunderstood. There must be a mistake. I only cleaned his house. The lawyer shook his head. No mistake. He personally changed his will 6 months before he passed away. He wrote one final note. The lawyer unfolded another handwritten page. It read, Margaret, you spent 40 years cleaning other people's homes. Now it's time someone gave you one to call your own. My tears fell onto the paper. For the first time in decades, someone had seen my sacrifices. Someone had noticed. All the birthdays I missed, all the dreams I postponed, all the years I gave away, without asking for anything in return. As I left the law office, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. But that hope lasted only one day. The next morning, my son called. His voice sounded strangely excited. Mom! I heard about Mr. Harrison's will. People are saying you inherited his house. Before I could answer, he asked the question that shattered my heart. So, when are you signing everything over to me? At that moment, I realized the biggest battle of my life hadn't even begun. My own son wanted the house. I sat quietly in my kitchen, holding Mr. Harrison's letter. For the first time in years, I felt like life had finally smiled at me. Then my phone rang. It was my son Michael. His voice was unusually cheerful. Mom! I've been thinking, you shouldn't live alone anymore. I'll move into the mansion with my family. I smiled sadly. He hadn't visited me in almost 8 months. Now, suddenly, he wanted to live with me. I softly asked, Michael, do you want to spend time with me? Or with the house? There was a long silence. Then he laughed nervously. Mom, don't be silly. We're family. That weekend, he arrived with his wife and 2 children, not carrying flowers, not carrying groceries. They brought measuring tape. His wife walked through every room. This living room would look amazing after renovation. The kitchen needs new cabinets. The master bedroom should be ours. I quietly followed them. Nobody asked, Mom, how do you feel? Nobody asked, are you happy? They only talked about the house. That evening, my granddaughter found an old photo of Mr. Harrison and me. She smiled. Grandma, who is this? Before I could answer, my daughter-in-law snatched the picture away. Oh, just the old man who left us this house. Us, not me, us, that one word broke my heart. Later that night, I stood alone in the garden. I looked at the stars and whispered, Mr. Harrison, you gave me a home, but I think my family only sees a building. The next morning, my son walked into the dining room holding several papers. Mom, I've already spoken to a real estate agent. If we sell the mansion now, we can split the money. Split the money. I looked at my son, the little boy I had worked 40 years to raise. The boy whose school fees I had paid by cleaning floors until my hands bled. I slowly folded the papers, placed them back in front of him, and quietly said, no. His smile disappeared. What do you mean, no? I looked directly into his eyes. For 40 years, I cleaned other people's homes. This is the first home that has ever been mine, and I'm not giving it away. The room became completely silent. Then my son stood up, angrier than I had ever seen him. If that's your decision, don't expect us to come back? He stormed out. His family followed him. The front door slammed shut. I stood there alone, holding Mr. Harrison's letter close to my heart. But 3 days later, Another envelope arrived. This one would reveal a secret even Mr. Harrison had never told me. The secret that changed everything. 3 days after my son left, another white envelope arrived. This one had no return address. Inside was a small brass key and a handwritten note. It read, "Margaret, if you're reading this, please visit the old oak tree behind the greenhouse. Everything you need to know is waiting there." My heart began racing. The next morning, I walked into the garden. Behind the greenhouse stood the old oak tree Mr. Harrison loved so much. Beneath its roots, I found a small iron box. The brass key fit perfectly. Inside were dozens of old letters, photographs, a leather journal, and one sealed envelope with my name written across it. I opened it carefully. "My dear Margaret, there is something I never had the courage to tell you. 40 years ago, your husband saved my life. I froze. My late husband." The letter continued. "We were both working at the construction site. A steel beam collapsed. Your husband pushed me out of the way and took the full impact himself. He never told anyone what really happened. He only asked me for one promise. If anything ever happened to him, watch over his family." Tears streamed down my face. My husband had never told me. Mr. Harrison had spent the next 40 years keeping that promise. He quietly recommended me for cleaning jobs. Whenever a client was about to dismiss me, he convinced them to keep me. Whenever I struggled to pay bills, he found another family that needed help. Without me ever knowing, he had been protecting us all along. Then I opened the leather journal. Inside was something even more unbelievable. Every birthday I had worked, he had written about it. Every Christmas I spent cleaning, he remembered. Every time I left his house exhausted, he wrote one sentence. "Margaret smiles through pain because love is stronger than suffering." I couldn't stop crying. For 40 years, I believed no one noticed my sacrifices, but someone had. Someone remembered. Every single one. That evening, my son knocked on my door. His face looked different. No anger, no pride, only tears. He quietly whispered, "Mom, I found Dad's old military journal. I finally know why Mr. Harrison loved our family so much." He fell to his knees. "I'm sorry. I've spent my whole life chasing a house when the greatest treasure was the mother standing in front of me." I gently lifted him to his feet. But before I could answer, one final letter slipped from the journal. It was addressed to my entire family, and its final message would change every one of our lives forever. The letter that healed our family. My hands trembled as I opened the final letter. Mr. Harrison had written one last message, not for me, for my family. I slowly began reading aloud. To Margaret's children. If you're hearing these words, then you finally discovered the truth. For 40 years, your mother gave away her youth, her strength, her dreams, so that you could have yours. The room became silent. My son lowered his head. Tears rolled down his face. I continued reading. "I was blessed with wealth, but your mother was blessed with something far greater. A heart that never stopped giving. If you truly want to honor her, don't fight over what I left behind. Fight to become the kind of people she always believed you could be." I couldn't hold back my tears. My son quietly stood up. He walked toward me, then slowly knelt on the floor. For the first time since he was a little boy, he wrapped his arms around me. "I'm sorry, Mom. I chased money when all I ever needed was more time with you." His wife stepped forward, crying just as hard. "We judged you." "We only saw an old cleaning lady." "We never saw the strongest woman we'd ever known." Even my grandchildren were crying. My granddaughter gently took my wrinkled hands. "Grandma, when I grow up, I want to be kind like you." I smiled through my tears. That single sentence was worth more than any mansion. A month later, we made a decision together. We didn't sell the house. Instead, we turned it into something beautiful. The Harrison and Collins Hope House, a place where elderly people who had no family could live with dignity. No one would ever feel forgotten again. Every room carried a small plaque. One of them read, "Kindness is never wasted. Someone always remembers." Every Sunday, my family came to visit, not because of the mansion, not because of money, but because they finally understood that time with family is the greatest treasure anyone can leave behind. One sunny afternoon, I sat on the front porch, watching my grandchildren laugh in the garden. My son sat beside me. He quietly held my hand. "Mom, if Dad could see us now, he'd be proud." I smiled and looked toward the sky. So would Mr. Harrison. The wind gently moved through the old oak tree, almost as if two old friends were smiling down on us. For 40 years, I cleaned other people's homes. In the end, I discovered the greatest home wasn't built with bricks. It was built with love, forgiveness, and the family that finally found its way back. The end.